You are live, Madam Chairperson.
Great. All right, well, let's start with the roll call.
Excellent. Crouch.
Present from East Lansing.
And can you also share your county?
I'm in Ingham County today. I'm not at my house.
She's in Ingham County apparently because she's not in her house. I'm gonna let you take that up with Mr. Quinn. Mr. Kroom.
Present from virtual land in Leland, Michigan, Ingham County, or Leelanau County.
Perfect.
That was
And
hard.
Mr. Hewson is absent. He made me aware of that. Ms. Yonkis. Don't think she's on. Corey's absent. Ms. Frank Hepfer.
Present from East Lansing, Ingham County.
Perfect. Mr. Walsh.
Present from East Lansing, Ingham County.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregg.
Present, East Lansing, Ingham County. You guys get to watch me clean my kitchen today during the meeting.
You can go to my house if you'd like. And Mr. Quinn.
I am present. I am in East Lansing. I am in Clinton County.
Perfect. Okay. And I am also present in East Lansing, Michigan, in Ingham County. And Caleb, if you're around, maybe you could just share where you're at. I'm not sure if you're listening right now. You might have stepped away from this computer.
Here. Hazlet, Ingham County.
Perfect. And Adam, if you are listening, maybe you could just share where you're logging in from too.
No, I'm in Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County.
I think I got everybody. Did I forget anyone? Please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, thank you all. And Madam Chairperson, you do have quorum.
Great. So then 1.2, approval of the agenda. Do you have any changes?
I do not have any changes to the agenda.
Perfect. I will motion to approve the agenda then.
Support, Jim Kroom.
Right, and I will do a roll call vote. This is for approval of the agenda. Crouch.
Yes.
Kroom.
Yep.
Frank Hepfer.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Gregg.
Yes.
Yes.
Quinn.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Perfect. On to the 1.3, the February 12th meeting minutes.
Yes, so I don't know if folks had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes. A lot of what we discussed, as you may recall, was sort of big picture strategy for spring events and activities. That was a big source of the discussion.
Great. I will motion to approve the minutes.
Support, Jim Kroom.
And I will do a roll call vote. Crouch.
Yes.
Kroom.
Yes.
Frank Hepfer.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
Gregg.
Yes.
Yep.
And Quinn.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Awesome. Okay, then. Is there any written communication?
There is no written communications that I have
Perfect.
received.
So then we're going to move on to 2.2, the motion to consider the agenda item to consider limiting public comment to 2 minutes.
Yes. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are obviously holding this meeting virtually. And it is the recommendation of the city attorney's office that the board consider limiting public comment simply so that, in respect of everyone's time during these virtual meetings. So the motion for consideration is to limit public comment to 2 minutes per individual.
Great. I will motion to support that.
Second.
Right. And I will do a roll call vote. Crouch.
Yes.
Kroom.
Yes.
Frank Hepfer.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes. Yes.
Greg,
Yep.
and Quinn.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. And Madam Chairperson, I am looking online and it does not appear that we have anyone attending in the queue today to speak before the committee, but it would still obviously be appropriate for you to open and close public hearing.
All righty, well, let's open public hearing. Communications from the audience. Since nobody's there, we can close it. And move on to 2.4, communications from staff.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share a couple of updates regarding the daytime, nighttime, anytime campaign. I thought that we would maybe hopefully start out on a positive front today. So really good news, I think that project has been really well received by the public. A couple of fun things that have happened since the last time that we met. First of all, last Saturday, we launched our second pop-up art installation exhibit. So this one is called Elementary. There are 230 art pieces from elementary students throughout the community, public and private schools. And we actually have 19 host business locations, and all that information can be found on our Explore Downtown East Lansing app. For those that are interested, we put out a press release. So really fun, really great artwork. Gabby and Marissa are both actually on spring break today, or they'd be joining, but they actually both helped on Saturday, put some stuff up. There were 4 teams of people. And we're hoping that, again, people from the community will come down and really enjoy the artwork and hopefully consider patronizing the host businesses. We also certainly enjoyed there was the second Downtown EL Underground Market, which I think was great on Sunday. I've heard some good things. I was not able to attend that market, but Gabby was there and said that things seemed to go well. So hoping that continues to be a success. I know that Adam and several others have really been working hard on that. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is, if you have not seen the press releases, the Rotary has been hosting various seating opportunities in the downtown. So I don't know how familiar you are, but the Rotary is obviously a nonprofit organization. And so they've been coming down on Saturdays and kind of keeping an eye on like picnic tables and Adirondack chairs and things of that nature, so that people are encouraged to come down, maybe grab some takeout and enjoy those public areas that have really been repurposed and sort of brought alive. So I think that is really, really fine. And then finally, just the TikTok challenge. So we have ended our first TikTok challenge and we have awarded the winner, which is great. It was a Downtown East Lansing gift card. We actually sent them the gift card yesterday. And so we're now on to our second TikTok challenge, again, all through the Daytime, Nighttime, Anytime project. And this one is Show EL Your Love. It is much more freelance, I guess I would say. So the first one was sort of more of a choreographed piece. This one's really encouraging people to get creative and go downtown and support those downtown businesses. So we encourage folks to take a look at that and hopefully participate and submit their videos, and that will go well. The other thing I wanted to share is that Adam Cummins and I actually have been meeting with an advertising class. It's actually sort of a senior course. And those MSU students have actually also been coming up with some pretty creative TikTok videos. So we will continue to keep you guys in the loop, but we're hoping that is something we can also continue to share on social media and that will drive people into the downtown. Again, the whole focus here is to really just drive people to the downtown, and to be there and patronize safely. So, but lots of fun things happening downtown, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And if I don't know the answer, I'm happy to try to get in touch with somebody that might. So, any questions? Okay. Well, those were my official staff comments for today.
Great, thank you. And then 2.5, any announcements or board member comments that anyone may have about anything we're doing or you want us to do or anything.
I have one.
All
And
yours.
just advising that I had raised an issue at the DDA meeting about the concept of public bathrooms in the downtown business area. And I've seen, I may have mentioned it here before, but I've seen in Traverse City where I think they actually give stipends to businesses who open their facilities to the public. Don't know if that would work. I know a lot of businesses are not in favor of that. but, and I don't know whether that issue should reside here or at the DDA, but I think that Peter Dewan, the chair of the DDA, had asked Adam maybe just to put that in front of the executive committee or one of the appropriate committees at the DDA to get it started. And I do know that I think there are existing facilities in maybe one of the parking structures that have just been mothballed. So I just have this sense, this vibe that I know I like to have a bathroom around just if I'm going to shop and do all of that. And so I don't know if it's viewed as a hindrance to business or whether it would be a help, or whether the security concerns would override other concerns, and whether they'll always just be plain dirty and yucky. And so who wants them? So that's my 2 cents. We'll see where it goes. I got no dog in the fight. It's just an idea to try and help.
Okay. Well, Jim, I can certainly, plan to go back and talk to Adam more about this, and just see what if you guys are seeking, I guess, a formal recommendation, then just let me know. But it's certainly something I can talk to Adam about, and we can try to see, what might make sense.
Yeah,
within
just
our commercial
concepts
community.
and
Yeah.
potential issues, and whether it's dead on arrival or how the businesses feel. Don't know. So thank you.
Yeah.
Amy, this is Caleb. We did used to have a couple of public bathrooms under the canopy of the old Albert Lot 1. And I know that the parking department would operate them. Obviously, the new development came in, and that canopy is no longer there. And I do remember them always being very dirty and not being respected very well. But I don't know where else it could go from there. Obviously, it would take a lot of, if they're just totally open to the public and there was no oversight over them, yeah, you'd probably have a lot of issues. But if somebody's really like there and present and had enough staff to look over it, and the stipend thing might be great, maybe something like that. We do have a couple of bathrooms at Charles Garage that the door is to the outside. They're pretty small. They might serve the function. But again, we don't have the staffing to monitor them and keep them clean. But if there was something that could be brought together monetarily to handle something like that, that's an option to consider.
Great. Well, Caleb, I welcome you in on this discussion at the staff level. Because I do recall the restrooms. What I recall is it was like a single, I think, because we would open it up for events. But I do recall it being somewhat challenging to keep them clean. But I know that some people get frustrated when we locked them. So yeah, it's just all things to work out. But okay.
Alrighty. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything? Any other board members? No? Okay. Well, we can move on to financial reports.
Okay. So before you is your February financial report. And as I often do, I think I'm going to start with the second page. So some good news. We always like revenue. That's always kind of a fun thing for us in the budget. So first of all, thank you to Caleb's team. As you all might remember, the parking division, as part of their annual budget, agrees to give the Downtown Management Board $5,000 to sort of support downtown activities. So we did process that journal entry. So that was $5,000 worth of revenue. Sometimes we've used that specific to like holiday decorations and activities. Sometimes we've used it, kind of across the board in programming. So, but that revenue did come in. I know that I also mentioned this at the subcommittee level, but we did also receive a $300 check contribution from Seams. This was part of a fundraiser that was done online, I believe in coordination and collaboration with RetroDuck. And so they sold some items that were pretty creative and then gave us the proceeds of the fundraising campaign. So that's great. So we had a total of $5,300 come in the month of February. In terms of expenditures, we did process the $5,000 pledge or contribution to the Daytime, Nighttime, Anytime project. So as you recall, that was approved at the January board meeting. So that did go through. And we did make our $29 payment for Call Loop. A couple of just, general things just to kind of keep you guys, in the loop, I guess I would say, about pending contract services. So we will have this fiscal year, we will have 4 more $29 payments for Call Loop. And then the Business Relations Committee actually approved some honorable mention winners for the TikTok challenge, which was great. And so you'll see that expenditure come through in March as well. The other thing that I was asked to put on the financial report is, as you might recall, the last board meeting, we had a discussion about potentially providing a sponsorship to the art festival, but we wanted to have that discussion further down the road, perhaps at the May board meeting. And so I just put that on there as a notation as you consider various expenditures at this point in the fiscal year. In terms of sort of big picture summary, as I mentioned, we did receive sort of the $5,300 in revenue. At this point, as I've been kind of mentioning, we have just a little bit over $5,000 or so that we could expend to break even. And that is given, if we have no other sources of revenue come in. But I think that, at the last meeting, we talked about selling some wayfinding signs. So I think that hopefully at the next market, we're planning to see how that goes and see what kind of transpires there. So we might have a little more operational costs that, a little more revenue, I guess, so we could do some more operations if that is the wish of the board. So that's kind of where we stand to date. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Nothing from me.
Okay.
No questions, I think.
Okay. Well, because I know you guys love talking about budget stuff. The other thing that I've done is this is the time every year where staff really begins to prepare for and have discussions about fiscal year 21 budget. So we are in, fiscal year 22 budget. So we are in fiscal year 21. We run from a July 1 through June 30th time period. And so what happens is staff starts to begin the overall city budget planning discussion, and then we have conversations with city council. I know that we're all aware that obviously we have special assessments that come in. That is our main source of revenue. But I did just kind of want to present, and this is in this highlighted area, kind of where we're at or what I kind of anticipate for fiscal year 22. And the one thing that I wanted to point out was certainly this is a draft budget. It is a very conservative budget. I do that intentionally so that hopefully, when we get more revenue in, that is better received. The big difference between this fiscal year and really when planning for the fiscal year 22 compared to the current fiscal year is that, if you might recall, at the end of the last fiscal year, at the very end in June, the DDA gave us $20,000 in operating costs. Okay. And right now, I'm going to assume conservatively that maybe we would do a partnership with a DDA of about $5,000. Now, I think that certainly that number could go up. Historically, we have done some partnerships with the DDA of $20,000, maybe even more. But again, this is kind of meant to be a conservative estimate. So that's why you're really seeing sort of this revenue line item here about $15,000 less than what it normally is. And I can tell you that Adam and I have had some discussions about maybe having a little bit, deep picture thoughts about, how we might continue to partner with the DDA. So again, that number might go up. But no real changes in terms of expenditures. As you're aware, the $15,750 really goes to support the staff interns and then just a portion of my salary. Contract services. So contract services is really anytime we enter into a contract with a vendor. So think of that as like if we work with Shine Lighting for holiday decorations, if we decide to employ artists or busker musicians in the downtown. And what I did was, just to kind of make life easy, I pretty much just split our operating kind of down the middle, the main point of that. So I put $15,490 towards contract services and $15,490 towards contract services marketing. And contract services marketing is kind of the traditional, what I kind of think of when I think about marketing committee, that would be Facebook posts. If you guys wanted to do print media, if you wanted to purchase, signage in the downtown, anything of that, that's kind of the category that falls under. I am assuming that we will make a $250 fees payment to the Greater Lansing Convention and Visitors Bureau. They actually waived that fee this year for COVID, but I assume that that's probably where we will be at for the next fiscal year. And then the $425 that I am assuming, so this has permits, license fees, and assessments. For those of you that have been through the budget cycle with me before, so we actually pay 3 different music licenses. There's ASCAP, there's BMI, and there's SASAC. And what those do are, anytime we hire a busker musician or perhaps, we help underwrite the summer concert series or something, and that performer plays a cover, right? So I'll just pick on Taylor Swift, plays a Taylor Swift song. We are covered because this licensing agreements allow that individual to play a cover song. And so the copywriting is in place. So that's why we do that. The good news is that those fees can be pretty hefty. So we split those fees. We share in the cost between the Downtown Management Board, community events, the art festival, and the jazz festival. So we pay 1/4 of all of those fees, just so everybody's kind of aware of that. And then the $1,800, so that goes to really support the 2 computer stations where our interns sit. That just kind of pays for, those areas and updates and anything that we need. We have like an Adobe Suite package component. We have InDesign, so anything of that nature. And then really the $100 is just kind of miscellaneous in the times when there weren't COVID and we could get together in person and maybe have some strategic plans and maybe, every once in a while, I know at least for one meeting, we'd usually have some lunch together or something. That's kind of just miscellaneous or anything good for the order. Maybe there's a last minute printing or something that would fall under that category. So total budget right now that we're anticipating is $54,555. Again, this might change. My thought process was that we could have more thorough discussion at the subcommittee levels this month at marketing and business relations to try to identify if there are specific things, obviously, that you would like to see funded. But at this time, that's kind of the budget that has been initially presented to finance for consideration. So does anybody have any questions?
So Amy,
Yeah.
maybe just more of a comment, or maybe you could help out just for Sarah's sake. I know that on the revenue side, we had considered in past years, should we up the amount that is charged, go through the formal process of making a motion here and then putting it in front of city council, and the revenues are based on square footage and they're different by floor. Basement square footage charges different than first floor, on and on. And I think we just decided that that now during COVID and economic crisis times was not the time to go back and do that. And hopefully all these new projects that are coming online, there's a procedure where we're tapping into those new retail developments to help our top line. But any other comments to add just for the new folks' benefit?
No, thank you, Jim. And this is so timely because that was part 2 of my presentation.
Oh, well, then shut my mouth.
This is great. No, this is great. Okay, so we all know that we collect a very modest special assessment. And as Jim just said, it is based off of square footage. So if memory serves me correctly, the first floor spaces basically are charged 8 cents a square foot if they're first floor, 5 cents a square foot if they're second floor and above, and a penny a square foot if they are like basement space. It is also capped. So for example, if you have 100,000 square feet, you don't pay any more than $2,500 towards your assessment. It is a very modest assessment. And I feel comfortable saying that just because last year when we were discussing it before COVID hit, we did do a thorough analysis of what other municipalities, or really what I should say, what principal shopping districts charge. So, but in light of all of that, and just to kind of bring everybody down history lane. So the Downtown Management Board was prepared to really have a very thorough outreach to the businesses explaining why the assessment should increase. And we were kind of on board to do that at this time last year, if you can believe it. And then COVID hit. And so what the board decided to do was they said, okay, now is not the time to probably ask for an assessment / tax increase. That's, not good for anybody. And I mean, how could we have foreseen? I certainly couldn't have foreseen that this was going to go on as long as we thought. So what we did was last year, during the May City Council meeting, we requested that City Council approve the special assessment at this particular rate for 1 year. The thought process being we could reevaluate. However, that being said, this special assessment is going to expire in June, on June 30th, which means that we're going to have to go through the process again in the spring months. And I'm prepared to kind of present you, especially at the subcommittee levels, with sort of my thought process with sort of a projected calendar. I certainly don't want to speak for the board, but if the board's decision is to just leave it at this rate, which I can tell you is staff's recommendation right now, given everything, I think that the next discussion is really going to be about how long do you want to leave it at this rate? Is it another year? Is it maybe another 2 years or 3 years? We try to think through when we think the economic recovery is going to hit, and then take it from there. Historically, the DMB actually used to approve the special assessment at 5 years. But what happened was they did 5 years, we did 3 years because we knew that one of the major developments was going to come online and we thought that we could collect some of that, and that has happened. But I think that there's just some real big picture, thought analysis that can now go into this of, what does the board think? Where should we go? So regardless, I guess that kind of with my pitch, the bottom line here is that we're going to have to revisit this spring so that we do hopefully get the special assessment renewed. That requires a resolution by City Council and a majority vote by City Council to get the resolution approved. We have not historically had a problem with that. But certainly, we'll just need to prove to council about all the good work that the Downtown Management Board does and why the special assessment is important and, how we can proceed with that. So obviously the special assessment right now is at the same rate. If the board decided that they did want to have a discussion about increasing it, then that is another potential for some more revenue. But frankly, right now, I can tell you it's not staff's recommendation that we perhaps talk about increasing it, just given COVID and the financial hardships that we know some businesses are facing. So.
Yeah, I agree. As the chair of the board, I would feel very uncomfortable asking people for more money right now. But I think everybody's opinion is valid. So if anybody has a different opinion than that, please share. But
and like I said, we can certainly talk about it at a subcommittee level too, and I intend to, but I did just kind of want to bring this to the forefront, kind of remind everybody where we're at. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. If you want staff to do some additional research, please let me know.
I do have one question, Amy, and apologies if I just missed you saying this. The recommendation is to do the current assessment for another 1 year, or would it be for multiple years?
I think that that's really going to be the decision of the board. Jesse, okay. I would, if you're asking staff's opinion, like my opinion right now at this moment, and Adam and I just had some initial discussion, I might recommend 2 years, just so that we're not constantly going back to the board with this.
That's what I was kind of thinking. It's hard. It's a little bit hard because we could really use the money, right? Because we're like taxed. Okay, wrong word. We have the responsibility of promoting downtown. And it really needs it right now. And it's like every extra penny that we can get, we could totally use it. And it would arguably be for the benefit of the businesses. But I think, yeah, generally I would say this is not the time to go and ask, businesses that have just had hit after hit after hit for more money. And I would say actually renewing it at the current rate for 2 years is kind of a way of saying, and we promise we're not going to do it next year either. We're still going to try to get a little bit of money off of you guys, but not very much. And we promise it will only be this much for this long. I would be fine with 2.
Yeah, 2 years sounds like a good idea to me too. That way we don't have to think about it as much or as often.
Amy, what's involved in the process? Is it just a motion here and approval and then a motion at City Council and approval?
Yeah,
so it's not a very cumbersome process.
It's not. What I would guess I would say is, again, we can certainly talk about the subcommittee level. I think at your next board meeting in April, I would place on the agenda a consideration to, this won't be the exact verbiage, right? But consideration to approve the special assessment at this particular rate. And then that recommendation is forwarded on to City Council. City Council holds 2 public hearings, and all of the businesses within the Downtown Management Board district receive 2 formal written notifications. So we did this process. So essentially, it says your business is at, the 300 block of Albert. This is the amount of square footage that we see that you have. This is what, your special assessment will be. If you, want to, speak to that or protest that, this is how you can, this is the process that you can do for that, essentially. And then so city council would have 2 public hearings, and then they would have to vote to approve it no later than June 30th. The real cumbersome part, Mr. Kroom, is really just that I need to confirm with the assessing department all of the numbers. And we just did it last year, so I'm really hoping that it's pretty accurate, that it's, hopefully there's not gonna be a lot of change, but I will need to formally work with the city assessor's office just to make sure that, the square footage and all of the numbers are there. Because, the other thing to bear in mind is that, if it is a vacant space, then, then that space might not have to pay special assessment, even if it's vacant. So that we're going to just have to pay attention to that. But hopefully, for the most part, things have stayed good. And, we've actually even brought a couple more businesses online, as we mentioned, from the last one. So we would have things like the Walgreens space, for example, and things of that nature. So.
Yeah, so thanks. I'm not opposed to 2 years. The only hesitation is I hesitate to tie our hands, because this is sort of a moratorium given the the economy that we find ourselves in. So if that somehow turns around, I don't know that would happen suddenly, and I don't know that, and 2 years seems like the right amount. I know the city is waiving license fees for the businesses too. And then what would happen? Does this prevent any kind of tweaks? Like I'm trying to remember, the one example was the new hotel coming online. And so if their giant ballroom or whatever they have on the top floor is somehow, booked for an entire year and they're making crazy money, we talked about, well, should they have a ground floor price, up on the 10th floor or whatever floor that would be, because the hotel may be able to, I don't know if they're assessed ground floor rates for their lobby, even though they're up on the 2nd floor. It's just, if there were minor tweaks like that, would that prevent us from going 2 years? Would that prevent us from making any kind of tweak?
So that's something I really want to talk to the city attorney's office about. What I do recall about this process is that if something is under construction, right, which technically the Graduate hasn't opened yet. Let's just pick on the Graduate as an example. But if they were open by the time July 1 hit, then, we can count the special assessment, if that makes sense. But I would need to check, Jim, on the legality of being able to potentially change it, because it is, brought forth through a resolution to council. So that I'm just not.
We were talking about potentially changing the max, because right now there's a max payout.
Right, of 2,500, right.
Is what we were talking about changing. That isn't necessarily what you're saying, but I know we were talking about the potential of being able to change that.
Right, and I feel like we settled on 4,000, but this again was over a year ago that we had this.
Yeah.
Sorry, my light turned off.
Okay, well, we can continue talking about it at a subcommittee level, but
Great.
I think probably most people are on the same page about not doing a rate increase right now, just more figuring out what the terms in terms of time that we would.
Okay, yep, and the flexibility of changes if they're allowed, it sounds like. Okay, great. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? I know that it's kind of a lot to take in right now.
All right, good. Okay, down to the Staycation 4.1.
Okay. So first of all, Eric Sedal from the Marriott Hotel was planning to join us. He profusely apologizes. Something happened at the hotel today, and so he needed to attend to that. He had another conflict, but I did want to talk through, the proposed staycation event and hopefully lead the board through some more, big picture discussion and kind of identifying the goals of the event. So As you are probably aware, the Business Relations Committee actually met a little bit earlier in the month, just to kind of work through this process a little bit. So here's where we're at. First of all, the Marriott Hotel is very interested in partnering with the Downtown Management Board. That's the good news, in offering a special rate. They are willing to give special rates of $129 a night for a Friday night and a Saturday night, or, if that makes sense, on the weekends. I had initially reached out to Eric Siddall, who's the general manager, and asked him, how many weekends. I'd kind of given him the initial weekend dates of March, into April. And at least during my last conversation with the Marriott, they had said that they're very interested in partnering on whatever kind of weekends the DMV is interested in. So I had said, well, would that include like all 7 weekends? And he said, at that point, he said yes. But I know at a subcommittee level, there was more discussion about maybe making it feel a little more exclusive, right? So maybe making it 3 or 4 weekends. I also wanted to let you know that we have reached out to the Wild Goose Inn a couple of times. I have not yet been able to formally connect with them, but we have tried, and we'll continue to try, until obviously this launches. So a couple of things, and I guess thoughts, sort of on the part of staff since sort of we met last. So, obviously we still need to finalize the date, but I think that a lot of what we kind of like to identify is sort of what would be deemed as successful and what the goals of the event are. Obviously, I recognize that, having people come downtown and having people patronize the downtown businesses is primary goal, right? Event number one that we want to see happen. But I think that, we've tried to have a lot of discussion at a staff level about what other things would make this event be successful. So, I know that we talked a little bit about, like, could we plug into other programming and market that? So we know that, for example, the daytime, nighttime, anytime project is going on. Certainly if we picked weekends and time periods where the market was going on, that's something that we can, kind of make exciting and kind of tell people, hey, on Sundays, between 10 and 2, go down to this location and enjoy that farmer's market. But are there other things that we might be able to tie into, and or are there other things that, maybe we could even think about using some Place Project money with, if kind of Adam and team are on board with, maybe having it just feel like it's something special, right? It's a feature. So perhaps that could be, a skate night, and we try to host something in the MAC garage, and, we could have that a couple of times during the weekends. Perhaps that could, we could work with restaurants. Maybe the restaurants are willing to kind of host something or do kind of like a, dine and learn kind of experience, or have people talk with their chefs, or, maybe a brewmaster or something of that nature. But certainly the people that stay in the hotel, we want them to feel like they're getting sort of a VIP experience. So I think in that staff's opinion, if we hosted something, maybe we could then offer like extended hours, if that makes sense, to individuals. So like, let's just use a skate night as an example. So like if we opened up a skate day or skate night, and people from the general public could come down from 10 to 3, then maybe, if you're staying in a hotel, we could do it like from 4 to 6. Does that kind of make sense to everybody, that we try to expand that programming? And then, I know that we talked a lot at the Business Relations Committee about kind of just saying, okay, it's a 20% discount. We've really, I think that, like, as staff, I think that we all know that businesses are hurting. I think that we all just kind of recognize that. And so we're kind of wondering if there's just a better way to repackage and promote, what they're already offering. Like, some businesses have survival kits. Is there just a way? I know that that's a lot of different things that we might have to market, but I can tell you that there's been some real concern about trying to ask businesses to give some sort of discount right now, that might not be well received, especially when everybody is really hurting, and especially in this first quarter. So, I know I kind of gave you guys some food for thought in the memo. I know that I kind of linked you guys to some potential articles, but I think from my perspective, from staff's perspective, we really want to be able to identify the goals of the program, and then whatever, how would we measure success, I guess, is kind of where we're coming from, to make sure that, the board's objectives are met, and that, hopefully, it's well received on the part of the public. So that's what I have on this. We'll open it up for discussion.
Okay, I guess if we just kind of work through this in order, I think maybe discussing the stuff you talked about at the end first rather than the stuff at the beginning, because I think kind of the goals and that type of stuff is more big picture, and then like what other programming we can add in after. I would say, I don't know specifically how to say, obviously success in terms of, my opinion, in terms of this being a success is people participating. I honestly, because we've never done anything like this before, I have no idea what measure in terms of numbers that looks like. If 30 people participate or 300, like I think that 300 people aren't going to participate. But if there is interest and people are doing it, I mean, I don't know. Does anybody have an opinion on like what a number looks like for success, or their opinion on that?
Well, I think one metric would just be how many people signed up for the special rate at the motel. So that kind of indicates a desire to play along, even if they don't continue with the rest of it. In terms of it, so I've participated in a couple of different kind of passport style events this year. It's definitely a method of doing it, but I don't think either one of the ones that I was involved with were very successful. So essentially, one was through the Chamber of Commerce and one was actually through the Sewing Guild. So one was obviously, very focused on my type of business, and the other one wasn't. So the Chamber of Commerce one, the idea was to have people submit their receipts. And if they visited a certain number of businesses during whatever time frame, then they would be eligible for some sort of drawing from the chamber. So that's something that we could do kind of the same way that we're doing with TikTok. If you visit 5 downtown businesses and you can show us your receipts, or just, somehow, take a selfie in front of it, I don't know what, then we can enter you into a drawing for a downtown gift card, which seems to be our currency of choice on this board for rewarding people. But I'm not recommending that per se, because I don't feel like either one of the events that I was involved with were terribly successful in getting people to actually participate. It's cumbersome for the user. So anyway, that is one format that has been tried and would be something that would be within our sphere if it seems like it would work.
I mean, I think that idea is cool. I also agree that people probably wouldn't do it as much. And I think that if people are staying at the hotel, it would be shocking to me that they didn't go in another business, right? Like, people aren't coming to stay at the Marriott because the Marriott's just like this all-inclusive Mexican vacation. Like, so to me, the measure of people that participate would be solely based upon how many people stay at the Marriott, or if the Wild Goose Inn participates, how many hotel reservations, and for how many people, because it's obviously could be 2 people in a room, it could be 4 people in a room, it could be 1 person in a room, So I'm pretty sure the Marriott probably tracks guest numbers, so numbers of reservations and numbers of guests, and then just assume from there that they visited businesses, because I don't know why else they would participate in this. I just don't know the metric of like how many people participating is the goal.
I think if we were to have a skate event or some sort of other event, we could count the number of people that show up, because you might have some people who are doing the staycation, but not necessarily running a hotel room.
This is Adam. I just want to chime in. I agree, Chanel. This is new. So we don't really have the parameters to, measure and evaluate the success. even with the market, we're still identifying those parameters as we go along. And so I think when Amy and I were discussing it, it was just how can we, best set this up for success? Because I think the idea is great. It's just a matter of how can we provide an experience, an all-inclusive experience for someone to come downtown and spend 2 or 3 nights down. What does that look like, right? Can we, because there are programs like the skate night, the Where is Zeke, stuff like that, that's part of the Place project that we haven't implemented yet. And so we're chatting, maybe we could implement those during the staycations just to provide, participants with something else to do. And then, we have the art pop-ups and send them on a tour around, around downtown to explore those. Just trying to integrate everything, make it connect, if you will, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think we should print, if we are able to get a bunch of other programming involved. So like specials, all that stuff. And then what is happening downtown East Lansing, if that was part of, like a guide to their weekend on activities they can participate in. Definitely. But I think the reservations would be the best metric though, for how many people actually participate in the staycation concept, because they're actually participating in the whole, the actual staying part of the vacation. And I just don't know. I mean, I guess that's where I would draw success from, is if there's people that rent hotel rooms. But I just have no idea what that number looks like. I mean, I would probably be, if like 30 rooms got rented, it's not necessarily a ton of people, but I feel like for a first year pandemic, short, like not a long lead up to it, I feel like that I would be pleased if 32 or 30 hotel rooms got rented or something, like,
That's what I
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess what I'm hearing you
like,
say is, what is that threshold that we say, oh, this was successful because it did 30 rooms and not 20 rooms?
Yeah.
What defines
I mean, like, to me, like anything over 5 people participated in, for what's happening right now. Like, I don't think 5 should be our goal, but I think that if 5 people came, it would be something that I say we try again, and maybe we'll get 15 or 20, or in a non-pandemic year, 50, like,
yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of measuring success. Thankfully, this event doesn't necessarily cost us a ton of money to put on, so it's not a massive risk in doing this. To touch on the point about asking businesses to provide specials, I totally understand that perspective. Sorry, honey, hold on. But this is a way to, and we're not saying to be in business, you have to have specials, right? So like, we could choose not to participate with a special and we're still there. And if we want to advertise on our social media, if you're in town for the staycation, come to Harper's. Like, it's not like they're not in, like, we're removing them. Like, it's not like it's like an exhibit that we can like take people off of, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like to convince people to come to this, you have to provide value for doing it.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. But, what I'm reading and the research is saying is right now, people aren't looking for the deal. They're looking for the experience. They're looking for something to do. They're more than willing to come down and spend money. It's just, you got to give them a reason to do so. They're not looking for the 20% off the 30, Of course, everyone wants a deal, but that's not their primary motivation at this time.
I would agree with that completely. If there's something to do, I mean, at this point, I'm not searching for deals. It's like, man, what can we do? Let's find something to do. We need an event. Let's go do it. And it's not like, if we're going to eat at the restaurants, we're going to eat at the restaurants. I don't know that. So I think we need to focus on how we can make it a success, not are we going to determine what is a success? I mean, if 5 people come down and, they enjoy it and they say it's great and they talk to everybody and that they tell everybody next year we get 10 people and then 10 people spend, I think we need to figure out what's going to make it effective before we figure out, if we only have 3 people come, it's going to be a disappointment.
Yeah, like I agree that people don't necessarily need a deal, but there has to be something to advertise, right?
Agreed. Yes.
So by just saying come to East Lansing and visit,
Yeah, for sure.
like I don't necessarily think that the deal is the driving factor that people are like, oh well, because I got 20% off, I'm gonna go to Hopcat. It's just a subconscious, like there's something like I'm coming for this event that I get these things, and that's part of the thing. I think honestly, it would be can you scroll up to the dates that are suggested? I mean, like if we push this off, there's enough time to poll businesses to see their opinion on participation with that. Like, I mean, of the businesses that are on this board, there was even Audrey in the business relations meeting, who's in retail, didn't really have, she was the one that was like, no, I think we should do 20%. So I don't know if, I think at the same time that people are struggling, a lot of businesses will take business over non-business, even if it's at a discounted rate. Am I making sense? Like if I'm going to get 10 customers in and I'm going to give them a deal, that's more than 0 customers at full price.
Right, but what I'm saying is those 10 customers aren't looking for a deal. They're looking for an experience. They're looking for, okay, you have a staycation offer me. I need a staycation. I need to get out of my house. I need to go walk around downtown. What can I do? Because I can go down and get 20% off, at Hopcat any other day of the week. What else are you offering me?
Definitely think we talked about like the yoga class. I know that's in here. I totally agree with that. I was just more of a way to allow businesses to advertise specifically if they're participating, as like just as much stuff we can put into it, the bigger of the experience it feels like, I guess. I don't think it's solely based upon the deal. I mean, I do think that the hotel having a deal is important to kind of facilitate people to do it, but I totally think we should have other programming. I think like a yoga class would be really cool, that people can do like in the Marriott, even like instead of necessarily like if they wanted to do, we'd have to talk to the yoga studio. How many yoga studios are there? Is there just one?
There's a couple, but we already have some that have reached out who want to utilize that space for their yoga classes. So that's what we're trying to say is let's build off that momentum and, use that programming that we have designed, whether it's in place yet or not.
Yeah, it
Adam, you
seems like
mentioned
it,
that some of the other things is there anything besides the skate night that's in there that could work?
The Where is Zeke program, Zeke the Wonder Dog. We still have that. There was the yoga studios, and then we're still evaluating some of the other requests to utilize that space.
yeah,
Before to answer your question, there's a lot of programming, that's scheduled for outdoors in late spring and summer that has not been implemented yet.
Gotcha.
Comedy night as well. That was another one.
Yeah, I mean, so basically if we're going to come up with a list of things, what would the most effective way, Amy, for you right now would be to come up with a list of ideas and then you guys see if it's feasible, or
I don't know, Adam, I'm deferring to you. Do you think I think that here's my initial gut to that is if we're going to plan on like the first couple of weeks in April, right, to give us that time period, which I personally might be a good idea, then yeah. We had already talked about like the skate night concept, which was kind of requested, and like the yoga classes, which it sounds like this board is kind of into. I think, one thing we need to kind of determine is, are we going to do this for like 2 weekends or 3 weekends, right? Because I think that's going to help dictate programming, right? So that perhaps, at least in my opinion, we would probably want to offer something at least once a night, unless you guys disagree.
If what you're saying is if the difference between 2 weekends and 3 weekends, if 2 weekends we can do more programming, then I would say less weekends, more programming, not less time, or more time, less programming.
Okay. That's helpful.
I'm not the only person.
No, I would agree. I mean, if it becomes, I mean, if we even have to cut it down to one weekend, I mean, I would not like to do that. Two would be preferred. But if it's one weekend and there's just a huge blowout of events, I think we would rather do that than spread it out.
I just want to say, like, I think you guys are on to something really cool. I think this could, has the potential to be really successful. And Chanel, you mentioned a guide. I think that would be necessary, right? To say staycation, whatever weekend that is, and top 10 things to do on your staycation.
Yeah. And like have, even if it's like a little envelope, I mean, I'm certain that the Marriott could hand an envelope with check-in or put them in the rooms or whatever. Like I talked to Amy even about the potential of printing a mask that says like #staycation EL, so that even when you're out walking around in East Lansing, if I'm participating in the staycation and I decide to wear the mask, part of this is also socially distant socializing, right? In terms of being able to meet other people in your community. We've all been isolated and not making new, like if we're at a restaurant and we see somebody, sitting, at another table, you might meet somebody because they are you're participating, or like in the hotel elevator, that,
I
some
love
stuff
that.
like that.
The staycation mask. The branded, yeah, I think that's awesome.
So that, they get that at check-in with, a guide, the city map, and, a list of the things that are happening that they can do. And I think doing workout classes, tour, any of that stuff, like whatever programming is accessible to us, I would say to have. I don't think there could be too much programming as long as people want to do it and it's not costing us because we don't have the budget. It's okay. Just go. You're fine. It's okay, honey. Sorry. It's not costing us anything.
Yeah. Do keep in mind that, this is a partnership. And so we do have funds set aside for programming that the vision was to have, that DMB could use those funds to implement as part of the PLACE project. Because we are partners in this, and, you guys are essential partners.
So
Like
I'm thinking too, somebody mentioned we got to reach out to the businesses for their ideas. So it's like, if I'm coming to downtown East Lansing and it's like, okay, stay here, do a yoga class, and then just walk around, that doesn't seem compelling or enticing because it is a staycation. So it seems to me we'd reach out to the businesses, and I don't know how you do this with COVID, but let's say there's a textile directed shop in town. Maybe there could be 2 limited seminars where the owner of that place talks all about the thought process going into it and how that whole business works and the art part of it. Maybe there's a bookstore in town and that owner has 2 sessions limited to 15 people at different times a day, like on a cruise ship. And he's going to talk about the 10 most amazing books that you never dreamed you'd be interested in, or some crazy topic. Each business would know, the ones that are excited to do it would hopefully have ideas about their business and could be put on the schedule. And then you've got a target to go to.
So I don't want to sit here and try and figure out what each business can do. I think that's a great idea. Let the businesses put it out to them. Is there something that you could offer service-wise, experience-wise, outside of any specials? Like if just like in our business, if we did some sort of like, because we could do beer, I don't know, stuff like different things that people could come and experience as an activity, and we let the businesses, let the businesses kind of let us know what would be feasible for them.
Yeah, and then like on a cruise ship, you would you'd have a schedule based on what the businesses are offering, and we would have to. Staff would probably have to help them sort of understand the concept and say, look, you could do this at 2 p.m., during your slow time, and you could have a little seminar in your business or whatever. Anyway, good thoughts.
And do we think we would want to offer like a stipend, guys? Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, if the business participates, we're going to give you, is that necessary? Or are we hoping that because there's going to be drawn foot traffic into their business that they're going to do it for free? Do you see what I'm asking? Like, is $200 if you do something necessary, or do we just walk away from that?
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary. I think people are going to be doing things using it as an advertising tool. And so being able to advertise, this is our event that we're having, the events are probably going to be geared towards a service they provide, and are able to upsell from that, whatever their upsell means, able to upsell from whatever experience they're offering. I mean, if it becomes I don't know. I just don't even think that would be necessary. I think businesses are excited about getting business, and businesses want people through their doors, and offering something like that doesn't necessarily cost them anything, because like for us, like we have beer, we have a brew mat, we have to pay them no matter what, the service doesn't, putting on a presentation or an activity or whatever doesn't necessarily change that.
Yeah, Amy, thanks for thinking outside the box. All ideas are good ideas, but I'm kind of with Chanel. I don't think it's necessary. So yeah, keep thinking of the good ideas.
Before we move on, Jim, while you were talking, it tickled my brain. I've been chatting with the people who run the art lab, the Broad Art Lab down there, and they have a massive room that is basically empty all of the time. And they've told me that if I ever want to do classes or gatherings there, that I'll just have to schedule it with them. So like, I love the idea that Jim thinks I'm ready to do a lecture at a moment's notice. Thanks, Jim.
Sorry, I don't have a business. It's easy for me to suggest.
Within my business, I really could only safely house like 3 people in our classroom with distancing. So I would need to either do it in the parking garage or find another location. And that art lab space is, climate controlled and huge. And I know that they're trying to get people in there because they're trying to get people to realize that there's, available studio space there. So I don't know if we've talked to them in any of this, but I would suggest reaching out to them as a partner for programming.
I think that's a great idea. Or even, and this was one of the main driving factors behind my initial reasoning for years ago wanting to do the business cocktail soiree between the businesses, but it could even be partnerships between businesses downtown. So like maybe you taught a knitting class and had a restaurant do appetizers, or like in their space, because restaurants tend to have a larger square footage than stores. So we have a decent, and we're all already COVIDly spaced tables, all of that type of stuff. So it wouldn't be necessarily super difficult for that type of partnership too. So like, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for that type of crossover joint marketing relationship building efforts too.
Yes, a lot of good ideas, and it'd be interesting to do something with the bookshop with the COVID-19. I think we need a little bit more space, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be done. It's coordinating things. I'm not sure the timing wise is great, but then again, we got to start somewhere, and this may as well be a good place to start. So I think it's a good idea.
Sorry.
I think it's a good idea to get people coming in.
What if, I mean, this might be a lot. I'm not in retail, so I don't know, but like, what if even one night there was like a pop-up shop in the lobby of certain retail shops that want to participate or something like that on one of the nights or something like that, even like that. Or if people wanted to, there's going to be a market, right? That one of those weekends, like if people wanted to do something, I don't know I haven't unfortunately been able to attend that. I don't know how much extra space is there or around. But even if we did something like that.
Yeah, I like it. We've got plenty of space still in the garage too.
So I don't know. I think that there's a lot that we have to offer in downtown East Lansing, and and I know I talked to Amy about staff feeling somewhat concerned about whether people are going to be able to participate that aren't participating in the stay overnight. The reason that I wanted to push the stay overnight in East Lansing as like the main thing is because I feel like people do more when they do that. Like we've tried to be a tourist in your own town day events for, I don't know, a decade at least probably. And it doesn't necessarily always get the traffic that we would want because it doesn't feel like an experience that you're like, some people be like, oh yeah, like I already know about East Lansing, I don't need to go do it. But if you're like, oh, I love vacations. I haven't been able to travel in a year. Let's go stay. And then I'm going to wake up late and my husband and I are going to go to brunch without our kids. And then I might go shopping downtown East Lansing where I never go because I'm always trucking my kids around and it's just easy and accessible because I have nothing to do all day and I'm staying downtown East Lansing because I got to go back to the Marriott that night, that type of an experience. So I think this is a unique opportunity to be able to push people out into businesses that they don't normally frequent in their normal.
Isn't this something we can also check with the Convention Bureau and the Travel Bureau to see if we can get some suggestions or guidelines from them where they have had successful things like this? Or if they haven't, why have they been unsuccessful? But we can get some promotion that way. In AAA magazine, if we know enough in advance, they sometimes can schedule these things in their publication. And that would be good publicity to get people coming through. Just a thought or two.
No, I think that's great, Ray. So I think if I'm hearing collectively that we're all kind of on this idea of like, okay, let's try to host as many events as possible. Staff can certainly survey the businesses and see like how they might be able to participate. I think to Chanel's point, we can, if like a business like Jesse, right, is going to be willing to host something cool and just need space, then that's something that I think we can put our communication to the business of like, if you want to do something, but you're worried about space due to COVID guidelines, like reach out to us because we can try to get creative. Maybe the Marriott would even be willing to, work with us. And, maybe there's some sort of rental stipend we need to pay, but I think that shouldn't hinder us is kind of where I'm at, to kind of think about, where would that be and how would that work?
Yeah, I think we have options with that.
I do too, whether it's the Broad or, there's lots of places we can figure out.
And the Broad reached out today about a partnership. So I imagine we can build off that conversation.
I'm certain that they aren't they doing private tours there too? So that
yeah, they are.
May be able to do something special, I don't know. I'm not super art junkie, so I don't know everything that they can do there, but like they could even do something really, really cool that people might want to go like experience, whether they may be having some like art installation those weekends or some unique thing. Isn't there like traveling
Absolutely.
art stuff?
Yeah.
So I guess my last question, because I know we got to move on here soon, is I know that we're going to reach out to the businesses. I get that. And I get that we're going to, try to have people do creative. Do you feel like we need to give them specific dates right now? Or do you think we should just be very general and say like, if it was these weekends, what are you willing to?
I don't want to commit to a specific date if we're still figuring this out, because what if it gets pushed back another week or whatever?
I agree.
I think odds are this is going to end up being more at the later end than the sooner end, but I don't think it really matters to the businesses. April 28th or May 5th or, right now I just think you should say this spring,
This spring.
like
Okay.
a range of, most likely in April for 2 weeks. If I would assume that more programming is going to mean less weeks. So my guess is this will probably end up being like a 2 weekend thing. So you can just maybe give them the kind of the concept and say, we can't define this until we get your feedback on what this would take from everybody else.
If possible, I would give them examples of stuff they could do too.
Sure.
So that they could say, so they could get creative and say, oh, I guess I could, I could host this with, Chanel at Harper's, or I could do, if you gave them, here's some examples of what other people have done or what we could do or something like that, so that they say, oh, wow, I never thought about that. I could, let me reach out to the Marriott or reach out to Amy or whatever and say, here's,
Sure.
Is there a theme?
Here's something I want to do. How can you guys help me do it?
Is there a specific theme? Like I guess what I'm trying to say is a restaurant to offer a specific, to be consistent with what they're offering, you know, and connected to the staycation. Is there a certain theme that we were thinking, like, you know, Chanel, we're talking about the tropical drinks, maybe, you know, am I making sense at all?
Yeah, like to make it like a themed weekend.
Yeah.
We haven't really gone deep into that. I'm not opposed to doing something like that, but I also think that it might be fun to just make it like East Lansing Pride themed.
Yeah, whatever. And I'm not attached to that issue.
I mean, like, I like the idea, like I'm torn because I like the idea of making this feel like a holiday and a vacation and travel that people haven't been able to do. But at the same time, like, reality is there might be snow and it might be Michigan and like it might just not work. So, and you know, this is our time to really like ingrain in people the special qualities that downtown East Lansing has. So you almost don't want it to feel like a vacation because you want it to feel like this is where we live and we can do this often. This isn't like, you know,
and yeah, you don't want
to feel too much like a distant vacation from what we aren't. It's like, oh, they did this special for the staycation, right? We can't go, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it also might be hard to translate the theme throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I have no idea what that would even look like. Just popped in
yeah,
my head.
No, all ideas are great ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think about like East Lansing Pride, right? So like I'm just throwing stuff out here. Like if you were Ray and you could say, I've been in business for 40 years, right? And blah, 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 or like, and I'm going to host a story time, or like, you know, Harper's, we were, you know, originally Dooley's and we were the first brew pub in East Lansing. But I think the business has to make that their own, right? Like they have to keep that identity.
Like it's authentic East Lansing. Like, yes, this is a vacation, but yes, you can come down here next Friday and experience the exact same thing.
Yeah, right.
So,
okay.
And it's really a time that we're able to highlight what we have to offer to the people that live around here. Not to say people can't travel to this. I mean, people can drive wherever they want, but I think it's really just about getting people that live here to actually see East Lansing beyond, you know, football games on Saturdays.
I like it.
Local hometown spirit, something like that. Some like EL Pride spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is very helpful. Adam, was there anything else you could think of that we might want to address?
Not that I can think of at the moment. I thought this was a great brainstorming session, and at least gives me a better understanding and direction y'all wanted ahead, and that way I can better help, because I think it's a great idea and I want to see it successful. So I'll be sure to work with Amy and make sure we do whatever we can and make it a success.
I guess we'd say that's the spirit.
That's right.
The other thing that I talked to Amy about, and we talked about in the other boards, is like how marketing this. I know we are short on time, but we're trying to do like PR releases to get people to write stories about it because it's a positive thing. It's going along with COVID guidelines of not traveling, but still being able to experience life, that type of thing. And also marketing it, getting the university to market it to its professors, because they are a huge part of downtown East Lansing, the city of East Lansing, that maybe they don't experience downtown East Lansing because it feels like student, right? So they have a large population of people too that we could tap into for them wanting their professors to participate in, since they can't travel and whatever. And they don't get like a full spring break like usual. That was another, I thought, way we could market this.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We can work with Michael and, you know, because of the MSU, City of East Lansing and County Health collaboration we've been doing. I imagine Michael could come up with some ideas how we might be able to market specifically to the alumni and professors.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys. This was really very helpful. Adam and I'll go back, connect with each other. And I think that we'll definitely have another discussion about that, this obviously at the subcommittee meetings and levels. And I guess you guys stay tuned, because I wouldn't be surprised if we try to have like a meeting, you know, earlier in the month, just to kind of talk some things out. So thank you, thank you. All right. So I think we're on to committee reports, which
Well.
I think we've really
Marcy.
discussed. So you have minutes in there.
Yeah, the only thing at business relations was everything we just talked about. So parking.
Everybody's favorite topic, right?
Of
All right,
course.
so just a few updates for you. The Grove Street parking garage broken glass has been replaced. The Albert Avenue alley elevator has been fixed. There's a row of some dead arborvitae trees, if I'm saying that correctly, in the new ramp above the businesses that we've had replaced twice. They don't seem to be the right kind of tree for that location, or for that type of location. We're actually going to have those removed and figure out another solution for those pots upstairs, maybe some uplighting or something like that. So that'll be happening sometime in the spring. And there's a situation I was on a group email about with downtown maintenance and some other folks on city staff regarding dogs defecating in the downtown. I guess there's an instance of a day where there's 46 different piles that were found around town. I know this isn't a great topic, but we're talking about as a group doing some more dog pot stations in the downtown, some better signage, possibly some more education for landlords to offer to their tenants, like, hey, you take your dog outside, that's great. If you're, make sure to clean it up properly and sanitarily. So just want to pass that along to this group, just in case anybody had any sort of other avenues we could utilize to inform folks about how to properly handle those kind of situations. And parking task force meeting is March 10th. So that's coming up. We're going to talk about budget woes and deferments of different things and staffing levels, and not necessarily going to be a fun conversation, but a necessary one. So that's happening next week. If anybody has any questions for me, I think that's kind of where we're at on stuff.
Not to dig too deep into that, but
Deep into what?
Harbor Bay told me that they tested, if you had a pet in there, they tested, and if they found it, they would fine you or potentially kick you out if they found any of that on their property. So that might be something to follow up with.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. Yeah, they had popped into my head on like Crone Management. I know they have a lot of tenants. So
I thought it was odd, but apparently they told me if you have a pet move in, you have to provide a sample. They have it tested, and then if it's found in the hallways
Okay.
in the parking lot or anything,
like
that they will.
like DNA testing. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
That's wild. When my mom looked at
Interesting.
their dog, they didn't test her dog.
Yeah, so I highly doubt they do that anymore, but that was brought to my attention. So
Okay. Good to know. Thank you for that.
I can tell you that the green strip outside the Grove garage is an extremely popular place to allow your dog to defecate, based on my observation at my front window.
Yep. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think the
Inside the garages
residents,
as well, I think it looks like. So
yeah, St. Anne and the residences, that people both come down and they kind of pop the dog out and then back in.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, I think some of the, whatever they're called, stations, the
Yep.
pet waste stations. I think, did we have one or is there one in the park by Black Cat? Is it Mary Sharp Park, whatever that one is?
yeah, I believe there's already one there. I think Kathy DeChambeau had said there was 3 in the downtown, maybe 4, and she's adding 3 more along with some additional signage. And then we're talking about educational materials and to go to tenants and such downtown to hopefully just get a little more people who maybe aren't aware that they need to be cleaning up after their pets.
Oh, they're aware. They know.
Right?
They can't pretend. They know that.
Don't really want to
I think that's
poo-poo
great.
the
I think more of
situation.
those stations is good, Caleb. I think that's a good step.
All right. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Great. Jim.
Hi, DDA report. Yeah, so in the last conversation, it's hard to get recentered. I was thinking maybe we call it Weekend in Paris, and you could have a contest to identify what kind of dog it was. it's like, so there'll be all kinds of contests and awards. But anyway, moving on.
Staycation, add it to the staycation programming.
Anyway, not a lot at the DDA. You guys are familiar with along Evergreen Avenue, along the DDA properties. The city is going to imminently commence putting in the infrastructure, the underground sewer system and all of that stuff. So that's all going to be dug up here soon. So we talked about the need to grant an easement to the city and to the contractors to allow them to sort of shave down the hill onto the DDA properties. Some of that road will be closed eventually and, you know, turned into green space or development space. But that was one of the items we discussed. And the other item was with respect to city center, and the council had approved an agreement. They're trying to resolve the issue with those 3 folks who are under 55 that were rented to by the developer, and have hopefully reached an agreement. So we talked about that and talked about, you know, tweaking that settlement agreement or amendment to the development agreement to hopefully reach an acceptable resolution for both sides, which would be allowing those 3 tenants to be grandmothered along until their leases expire naturally, and then to reconfirm that there has to be someone 55 plus on the lease who's actually living there. So those are the main items that I have.
Great. Then we're all set, I think. I will motion to adjourn the meeting.
Support.
All right, I will do a roll call vote, and this is to adjourn the meeting. Crouch,
Yes.
Kroom,
Yes.
Frank Hupfer,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Greg,
Yep.
and Quinn.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Staff will be in touch about updates to staycation event ideas and about upcoming subcommittee meetings. So thank you all very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.